Welcome back to Of the Devil. It's trial time, and oh yeah, it's me, Cheesy. I forgot about that part. Anyways, that's fine. We're about to handle this trial, and we're unprepared. I think there's some stuff that I forgot about. Yeah, profiles. Mireille. She showed up at our place last night, and it was intrusive and uncool of her to do that while I was getting ready for bed. But she's born October 1st. Occupation is representative. Likes sipping alcohol, rubbing alcohol, arachnids. Dislikes sunrises, black tea, photographers. Favorite smell, dojo floors. Best at making use of people. Worst at hiding my distaste. What a sweet lady. All right, well, anyways, we're just wholly unprepared for everything. Genetic factor, authentication. Nice, that doesn't work well. Tenets. Oh yeah, we know what tenets are. All right, well, let's get it started. The courtroom gallery is quite full today, isn't it? Awash to the sea of pissed off cops. It doesn't exactly shore up on one's confidence, does it? Does it? I guess he sounded more confirming in that one. 5 counts of murder would be newsworthy of any day of the week. Add to the fact that one of the bodies belonged to a cop and a crowd was to be expected. Didn't think they'd be so quiet, though. Maybe they're all just waiting for the firing pistol before they start casting their stones. Don't let it get to you, Sosuke. You're just posturing. Posturing, I understand. I've been in attendance for my share of tense negotiations, but the bloodlust in those rooms was always mutual. You don't feel any animosity towards these cops. I'm used to summoning my temper on command. I might have forgotten how to get angry for my own sake. You just worry about the jury. What about the adjutant? They cannot be intimidated by muscle, bribed with cash, or disarmed with fine tailoring, all of which makes them quite favored when it comes to prosecuting organized crime. Have you been in court many times before, then? It's an eye for an eye in the world we operate in. We don't file assault charges, we just answer them. Though even that has become rare. The house is elevated. Blue bloods and rust and all the rest of the rabble. We're beyond their reach now. And when it comes to our peers, we communicate very differently. We must make being a bodyguard pretty boring. I think your work sounds very rewarding and exciting, Sosuke. Thank you. Especially the other day, when you were captured and beaten by your rivals. Yes. What I was trying to hint at, Morgan, is that you should not be expecting assistance from the house. Honestly, the thought hadn't crossed my mind. Being on the winning side for once? What the hell would that even feel like? So there won't be any men in black approaching the jury during lunch and offering them paper bags of cash? No. Well, if we do really bad, we won't even make it to lunch, so... Sosuke, what are you staring at? Are you looking for the jury? Oh, are you looking for the jury? No, I know where they aren't. I know they aren't here. It used to be mandated that juries be physically present for court proceedings. People felt it was important that they look the accused in the eye to help them evaluate their character. Why bother? Most people suck at that. Always have. Very true, Morgan. True. Yeah, we all agree. Perhaps it was considered part of the punishment, then, to have to look them in their eyes. A punishment for the jury or the defendant. Oh, a punishment for the jury or the defendant. All right, kiddos, chins up, shoulders out. Show's about to start. Ah, just remembered. Do you think the agenda assigned to this particular case? Obviously, it's gonna be me. Obviously. I mean, that's the gimme. Easy. How? It's Addie. 80. Is it 80? It's 80. What are the chances? There should be at least 83 other personalities in the building's network. At least. Well, Your Honor, thank you for presiding so honorably. I do try. Because it's a trial. Tougher crowd than usual. And that's not counting all the grim monoliths standing tall out there in the gallery. Who died? 5 people, Your Honor. Yikes, what's the damage? 2 counts of manslaughter, 2 counts of homicide in the 2nd degree, and 1 count of homicide in the 1st degree. Buddy, you're trying to set a gold split with all that? What's with the record-setting grind set? The prosecution stands ready. So, shall we begin? Your credit's always here. Oh my God, I'm poor. Whoa, court, This is new. Is this new? Do I remember this? It's cool. Now, let's crack open those opening statements and get this case summarized. Gladly, Your Honor. People of the court, the defendant in this case is a man named Sosuke Ikaria. He was found at the scene of the crime where 2 men were shot to death. One was stabbed in the neck, another had their skull bashed in, and a police officer was impaled through the back with a sword. Whoa. Cop killing piece of shit. Damn the crowd. Please pardon any outbursts from the gallery that your mix may inadvertently pick up. Now, I understand that the scale of violence on display here today may intimidate you, but I want to stress to all of you now that your responsibility here today is neither taxing nor complex. You will hear testimony, you will be shown evidence, and all of it will point towards the truth. That the defendant is the only individual who could have possibly committed these crimes. That is a simple fact, and the only one you need concern yourself with. Ooh, she's cold as ice, but every ice age beckons a kindling. For as ashes call to cinders and embers form champions. Defense is ready, Your Honor. Emma did stick to cold logic, so if I follow her with more of the same, it'll end up falling flat. Oh, I gotta hit the emotional beats. This gallery will never warm up to us, but that can work to our advantage. If the jury comes to see these cops as witch hunters eager to start a pyre, choose the most outlandish words you can. What? Go for broke. What? What am I doing? Alright, I guess. Okay. It's not like Masters never taught me anything. I know how to do the razzle-dazzle. My fellow citizens, you were brought here today because of an act of violence. An act of violence took place that only could be described as... wild, bloody... This sounds most outlandish. Unspeakable. Yeah! I think that's good. Is there a better one? Unspeakable? I should know. I was there. I saw the blood on the ground, the bullet holes in the walls, felt the... what is it? What would it be? It's like... horror? No. Unease? No. It's gotta feel evil? Because horror is just, that could be any murder, really. This feels more intentional or set up. I have no idea. Felt malevolence that radiated in the air. Nice. And I also saw where my client was held prisoner. And I knew exactly where he must have stood because his sweat and blood had stained the tile. My client, a decorated veteran, the man you see standing next to me here, not even fully healed from his... torture. I mean, he was tortured. From his torture, was taken into police... taken to police custody with lacerations, bruises, and internal bleeding, broken bones. And while he was in police custody, he somehow sustained a black eye, a busted lip, a broken nose, and a boxed ear. A puzzle which I'm sure any one of the officers in the gallery today would be happy to testify about. You gonna let her say that? Nice. I love a crowd that is not good at handling words. You want me to object during an opening statement? Much is resting on the outcome of this trial. 5 men lie dead in the morgue. One of them, a police officer, Tariq. Don't speak his name, you mob lawyer bitch. Hang them up. Hang her too. This is... Hey, we like to have fun in this courtroom. Put on a good show. But that's because we're on the stage. Any more outbursts from the gallery, and I'll clear the entire room. You can all watch the rest on your phones or peek in through the keyhole like a bunch of sweaty looky-loos. Counselor, let's wrap this up. Yes, Your Honor. Yeah, making them do outbursts is the best. I love angry people because they're so easy. It's great. You just need to use like 2 or 3 words and it makes them piss their pants in anger. The fact that the matter is, on the night, my client was not in any condition to kill anyone. Not 4 hardened criminals, and certainly not a trained police officer. And nothing about my client's background, his associations, or that of the victims can change that fact. So as you listen to all the evidence in this trial, with fairness and impartiality, as I know you will strive to, I only ask that you focus on the reality of this horrible crime and not on the fiction that the people will try to weave for you. Thank you. Decorated veteran? You telling me you never earned a single commendation? Most push-ups of the day or something? Never mind. I suppose it could have gone much worse. You're too kind. I was trying to be honest. The crowd got agitated, but you maintained a level head and recovered your tempo. Adonai is a master of doing so. I've seen her make comebacks from the most nonsensical mistakes before. In martial arts, they call it an ukemi, a graceful fall. That is basically correct. Well, try not to gracefully fall over when you see the first witness on the docket, Sosuke. What do you mean by that? Oh boy. Okay, let's see. Your name and occupation for the record. How can I be of necessary? If some blathering idiot in the courtroom doesn't already know who I am, they don't deserve. I know, but would you consider it, if only for the sake of ceremony? Ceremony is important and should be respected. Very well. I am Makoto Ikaria of House Ikaria. My occupation is that of a student. Try not to look so smug about it when you blatantly lie. Right, of course. And your position with the Ikaria Financial Group? It is not salaried. Must I really declare it here? Hard to imagine why the noble house of Ikaria is getting audited. Sosuke, are you alright? No, Sosuke, are you alright? He can see us? He can see me, Rockford, and the adjutant. Witnesses testifying don't really need much else. So he's safe. Yes, Sosuke, he's safe. Like he was yesterday. Probably sitting where I left him, or standing in on a box. I think the hologram's given him a boost so he can really see over the stand. That's good. The boost to his height? That he's safe at home. I'm sorry that he can't see you, Sosuke. Don't be. After how horribly I failed him, I'd like to speak a bit about the events of August 13th. About the last time you saw the defendant Sosuke Ikaria. I'm here today, not physically, but here nonetheless as a courtesy. That does not mean I will flap my gums like some sort of flapping gum puppet. Permission to treat the witness as hostile incoming. Emma Rockford raking a spoiled brat over the coals. The soul must be worth the price of admission alone, she won't. I understand. It was a traumatic experience, I'm sure. Anyone of normal upbringing would barely be able to recall a single detail, let alone the day's full events. Normal upbringing. I should probably dismiss you so I can get back to your summer studies. Summer studies? Like some common waif? Waif? That's quite the vocab pull. I didn't know they taught that in State Basic. Basic? Was I mistaken? Listen well, Madam Rockford. I demonstrate to you exactly how misguided you are about my powers of retention. Please do. Played like a damn fiddle. Why wasn't she mentioned during any of our trial preparations? Adonai has only won against her once. So far, every hot streak starts somewhere. Hot streak? I really am going to prison, aren't I? Where shall I start? As far back as you can. A simple task. For the past year, members of the organization, most commonly referred to as the Blue Bloods Mafia, have been making attempts on my life. Did you steal their lunch money or something? I am the primary beneficiary of my grandfather, Daisuke Ikaria's will. In common parlance, I am the sole heir to the Ikaria financial group. You could buy so much lunch. The group you know as the Blue Bloods have been jealous of my family's financial foresight for decades. I am merely the most recent target of their impotent attempts to nip at our heels. And 2 days ago, August 13th, how impotent was their attempt then? I was leaving a meeting held on the upper floors of the Crane Tower. My security detail escorted me to the elevators, where we would then proceed down to their canopy access floors. This was all planned out in advance by my head of security, Sosuke Ikaria. But the elevator became stuck with unnatural timing. When Sosuke pried the doors open, we saw that we were stuck between 62nd and 61st floors. Pried open with a tool? Leading the witness, Your Honor. He didn't need a tool to open the doors. His bare hands were more than sufficient. Help Sosuke out here, kid. We submitted into evidence the defendant's Akita Type 2 military-grade spinal mod, designed to enhance strength, endurance, and reflexes for high-intensity combat scenarios. Yes, sir. It is so admitted. What happened next? The decision was made that we would crawl out into the 61st floor and head for the service elevators. But once Sosuke and I exited, the elevators started up. It was a trap. We had been cut off from the rest of my detail. You were isolated and defenseless. That must have been... hardly defenseless. You really think my personal head of security wouldn't be armed? He had Yoru. Don't tell me. You named your sword? All great swords have names. Thank you, Sarah. Very well put. Let the record show that the witness has identified Exhibit B3 as belonging to the defendant. The sword was recovered by the police in a known blue blood den in the lower wards, found impaled into the body of Tariq Chopin. And forensics have shown that the only fingerprints on it are those of the defendant. There's still time for you to disown it, Sosuke. You understand nothing about a swordsman's heart, Adonai. Once again, it is your paralegal that has the right of it, or perhaps she should be leading my defense. If this somehow turns into a fencing competition, I'll gladly defer you two. So you, Sosuke, and Yoru were on the 61st floor together. What happened next? When we arrived at the service elevators, Sosuke called them, and they made a chime. And I didn't clearly see much of what happened next, to tell the truth. Figures emerged from around the corners. They were aiming weapons at me. A red dot shone on my chest. And then Sosuke was there, and a needle was sticking out of his arm. Yoru glinted. Sosuke had drawn it in the blink of an eye. Something glanced off it and dropped to the floor. I saw a syringe at my feet. Yoru's sheath was thrust into my arm, pushing me back into the elevator, and I landed on my rear. That's clearly a key piece of testimony. Let's play it back 5 times. What matters is he pushed me back into the elevator with Yoru's sheath. How I landed is irrelevant and should be stricken from all public records. The only other thing I saw was Sosuke's back. He slammed his hand against the elevator control panel and the doors shut. That's the last time you saw the defendant. The decision was made that I should get on the VTOL as soon as possible, but much of my details stayed behind to assess what had happened. Yes, they were very helpful to the building security in recovering Exhibit 5C, this hypodermic needle gun. What kind of bonehead would leave evidence like that behind? A bonehead in a rush, perhaps, Your Honor. It does appear to have exhausted its gas canister, so it may have outlived its usefulness. I take it that this weapon is a match for the projectile needles found in the room where my client was restrained? Correct. The others exactly like them were recovered from the scene of the ambush as well. Makoto, did you see the faces of the men who attacked you? Ha! All too clearly. I can tell you every detail of their roughshod countenances. Ah, that sounds like a good bit of testimony. Hit it. Oh, shit. All right. Needles. Okay. Yoru. I'm like writing these down. Because every time I don't write these down, I'm like, what the fuck's my evidence again? So Yoru. Oh, this is only 2? Oh, that's weird. Okay. Okay. Pineapple head. Oh, shit. They aimed at me, but Sosuke got between us and blocked every shot. With Yoru, he could have closed the distance, but a dark-eyed scoundrel approached from the right. And a man with a ridiculous pompadour took advantage of that distraction. I'll never forget the faces of those cowards. They tried to kill me. Okay. So whatever happened to them afterwards, I'm sure they deserved it. No, I didn't try to kill you. Now, is that it? Makoto's putting his talents for hyperbole on full display. I'll have to fact-check his description in order to get the ball rolling. Pineapple head man, no. They aimed at me, no. Okay, I think it's needles and... when he says, I'll never forget the faces of those who tried to kill me. Yeah, that's right. Needle. Yeah, what a bet! Okay, that was good. They couldn't have been trying to kill the witness, not with a non-lethal projectile, with non-lethal projectiles. They fired a lot of them. The witness doesn't weigh that much. Yeah, but like... Don't try it. This attack was clearly planned with the... what the heck is this? Okay, I just needed... Apparently, if my mouse is on, like, the menu, it sort of confuses the game, and pressing enter does not move forward. Don't try it. This attack was clearly planned with the intent of capturing Makoto alive. Meaning what? That 4 of this case's victims were actually soft-hearted pacifists. There's nothing soft-hearted about what they did to my client after capturing him. Using tools they clearly originally planned to use on the witness. So they're sadists. I'm getting confused here. So is the defense, Your Honor. What matters is that the witness had identified the defendant's captors as 4 blue blood victims that is accused of murdering. Makoto did establish that much, but something about this attack bothers me. Emma put Makoto on the stand specifically to identify the victims. Is it possible that the men who attacked them weren't Creek's pod? They were attacked by some other party. No, I mean, they said pompadour and everything, and I'm pretty sure that is what they look like. Well, oh, that's not the pompadour. Where's... Is it Creek? Creek. Yeah, pompadour. No, it's definitely them. Stay. They were attacked by Creek's pod. Okay, good. I don't disagree, Your Honor. The men who attacked Makoto and took Sosuke's captive are the same ones who ended up dead that night. But 2 questions do occur to me. Why were you safe on that service elevator if Sosuke surely collapsed the very moment it shut? Wouldn't these men have pursued you by any means necessary? That is... I can answer that, Your Honor. When the police inspected the scene, they found that the control panel for calling the elevator on the 61st floor was broken. Smashed, in fact. The attackers would have had to manually pry open the doors to even attempt to chase after Makoto. And that would take remarkable, modded strength. Did you mash the button that forcefully, Sosuke? I may have used more force than necessary. I wasn't exactly trying to hold myself back at the time. He hit the controls hard enough to break them. So the Blue Bloods can pursue you further. Whoa. It's stormy today, so it's kind of fun that we have some thunder going on. Not sure if that got caught on the recording, but if it does, I'll leave it in. It's kind of fun for the ambiance. So Blue Bloods can pursue you further, and instead elected to take Sosuke alive. A Sosuke in the hand is better than a Makoto in the bush. The head of Makoto's security would surely have made for an invaluable source of information for planning future attacks, were he made to talk. Are you denying that? No, but I would like to ask the witness one other question. Why did you get off the elevator in the first place? Wait, what? What are you... Hey, what I mentioned in the lobby earlier, that's... The mics might not be picking up on it for you, but from where I'm standing, I can't help but overhear my client groaning about how badly he failed you. That's not evidence or testimony, and so should be stricken from the record. But we get the idea. So was bailing out early the defendant's big brain idea? As head of my personal security detail, such a decision is ultimately his to make. However, that decision may have been influenced by his knowledge of the fact that I am not especially comfortable in enclosed spaces. The hell are you doing? You trying to humiliate him? In part, I'm also trying to insult you. Had we simply waited, we would have remained safe. But I was not comfortable and felt very warm. So it was not a tactical failure on Sosuke's part per se. Just an error of judgment. Ooh. Counselor Morgan. What's up? You can disconnect the call if... Ask me another question. Ask me about how bravely Sosuke defended me. Huh. So that's your angle. We can't all be naturally gifted at extracting valuable testimony out of spoiled brats as Emma. But I can follow her example, insult their pride, and these Ikaria snap back, as reliable as any knee-jerk reaction. And in Makoto's case, with infinitely less resistance than if I had simply asked him to testify. That's usually the lawyers who do the asking and the witnesses who do the answering. It's not very realistic. We ask that the witness testify for the court in more detail about exactly how valiantly Sosuke fought off the attackers. And I guess the people don't object, even though it seems super extra. No, the people don't object, Your Honor. Emma's playing passively. Either I'm onto something here, or I'm walking into a trap. Screw it. All in on the former. Needle guns. Okay, needle guns. Sosuke med records. Okay. Needles. Okay. Sosuke was outnumbered at the thing protecting me. Didn't matter that we were ambushed or the Blue Bloods had projectiles. No. Sosuke took up Yoru in both hands and swatted their needles out of the air like a graceful swatter. He fought off 4 attackers and without sustaining a single injury. Mock him if you dare for being captured. Okay. But that's not a failure by any general's definition of the word. Yeah, it's not. Okay. Hearing Makoto describe Sosuke's... Okay, I just need to check his med records, because that's the only part that I'm... Sosuke Korea apprehended scene of the crime and placed in medical transport. Okay. Injuries noted at a time, blood from various sources across the interior. Numerous bones left in hand, broken as if from impacting a hard surface. That's probably the elevator. Slight laceration found on the left hand. Internal bleeding throughout the torso and skull. Bruising and rope burns on both wrists as if bound. Numerous bruises on the anterior front side of the body. Other blood across the tops of feet and pant legs. Largest wound found on the crown of the skull, back of the head near the top. At the time of booking, numerous additional injuries were noted, including bruised left eye, busted lip, broken nose, boxed left ear, blunt trauma to anterior front side of the head. When or where these additional injuries were sustained is not noted. Yeah, okay. So, let me just move that out of the way. Hearing Makoto's describe Sosuke's heroism, more impressive. Okay. More impressive. It's almost more impressive the second time. He definitely fought without a care for himself. And there's evidence to show it. Outnumbered from the beginning, protecting me the whole time. It didn't matter that we were ambushed or that the Blue Bloods had projectiles. Sosuke took up Yoru in both hands and swatted their needles out of the air like a graceful swatter. He fought off 4 attackers and without sustaining... No, that's not true. He was fucking hurt. Yeah. I hope this is it. It would make no sense. Okay, good. Because I was like, needles, needle gun, just... Unscathed is the last thing anyone called my client after the events of that day. One look at his medical data from when he was arrested will tell you that much. What are you getting at, counselor? The defendant's injuries were sustained at the Blue Bloods' den, not at Crane Tower. The police didn't find even one drop of blood anywhere near that service elevator. Well, that is a miracle, a bloodless ambush. But the fact that no blood was found makes it all the more painfully obvious what actually happened on that elevator panel. The elevator panel? Ugh. My client broke half the bones in his left hand, smashing it up. Yeah, that's what I thought, on the elevator. Did you really? I might have. There was a lot of adrenaline at the time. Did you not form a proper fist? Was your wrist not in alignment with your forearm? As I said, Sarah, there was a lot of adrenaline. Do you deny that his medical records clearly show his left hand was broken? Your Honor, what does it matter that the defendant broke his left hand closing that elevator? How would he use his sword? How would he use his sword? Yeah, that's right. He wouldn't have been able to use his fucking sword. He used his scabbard to knock him back and hit the thing. It changes nothing about the witness's testimony. I'll just move my mouse out of the way for nothing. No, it does not. His testimony has been contradicted. Wait. Yeah? Wait, no. Wait, what the heck am I thinking of? Wait. I was actually feeling like it was contradicted, but I need to check the backlog again. The fact that no blood was found makes it all more painfully obvious what happened to that elevator panel. Who broke their hand. Yeah. Fought off 4 attackers without sustaining. Okay. Fought without care for himself. And look at his medical data. Wait, what's in his medical data right now? What does that show? Bones and impact on hard surface. Laceration found on left hand. So his left hand was broken and he had some slight lacerations on it, internal bleeding. Okay, numerous bruises in the front of the body. Okay, so it was bloodless. So he's not wrong, but he sustained injuries. But he couldn't use the sword after. Yeah? Yeah. True, Sosuke's hand getting injured doesn't change what we've learned from the witness. Yeah, so that's fine. But it does change the evidence you had him identify for the court. The katana? Yoru. Yoru. Its name is Yoru. We get it. Did you have a point to make, counselor? There is something odd about the katana that's been entered into evidence. Something that makes no sense given what we've learned about the outcome of this ambush. Namely, the sword's prints. Yeah, he couldn't have held it, right? Because his hand was fucked up. Namely, the fingerprints that were found on the sword's handle. Yeah. Fingerprints belong to Sosuke's right hand. You're contradicting yourself, counselor. We've already discussed how it was your client's left hand that he broke closing off the elevator. There's nothing contradictory about him using his right arm to wield the blade. It can be like this because Sosuke has 2 hands. The people are correct. The sword found at the scene of the crime has my client's right hand fingerprints on its handle. despite the fact that this witness just testified that Sosuke was swinging it with both hands. Like a graceful swatter, specifically. Oh yeah, he did say that. So did the little tyke misremember? It was a chaotic situation where he feared for his life. The court should hardly expect him to have kept track of such an inconsequential detail. Have you already forgotten my magnanimous, it's hard to say sometimes, powers of recollection? Her tactics from earlier backfired. I'll have you know, I can recite all of my subordinates' birthdays down to the hour. Write them all down so I can calculate their moon signs later. It doesn't matter whether the witness is mistaken about Sosuke's grip, Your Honor. Because we have a much bigger issue to address. Why this sword has only my client's fingerprints on it. That's right. Makoto testifies that Sosuke wielded this katana in his defense. In an act of bravery that ended with my client face down on the floor of Crane Tower. He later woke up, held captive in the lower wards. I'll state the obvious here and say while he was unconscious, he was moved. And so the sword we have in the record must also have been handled by... Chopin! Let's see, Sosuke... Wait. Oh, it's Creek. It's gotta be Creek. I mean... Whatever, I've been doing well. I'm allowed to make a risk. But it's Creek. It's not even a risk. It's not a risk. Joe. Our poor victim Creek, of course. Yeah, nice. I did it. Wait, I want to check Makoto's testimony real fast. Testimony of Makoto. Makoto claims pushed him into the elevator with Yoru's sheath before violently mashing the panel with his left hand. Okay. So that's cool. Oh. Okay. Let's see. What do you mean? Sosuke was knocked unconscious at Crane Tower. That means that someone else must have brought his sword down to the lower wards. And the only people who had the opportunity to do so would have been his captors. You mean his victims? Withdrawn. Did she just take that back? Either voluntary or a response to an objection sustained by a judge. Attorney may withdraw their comments. Officially, juries are to disregard any comments that have been withdrawn and should not take them into consideration. Yeah, I think she said that out of, like, impulsivity, but she knows that she was wrong for saying that. That's funny. Yeah, good detail of the devil. The defense is forgetting a fairly simple fact, Your Honor. There's more than one way to hold a sword. Oh, worm. In case the defense needs it clarified, Creek should have simply held the sword by its scabbard. Can I say I just love the music? It makes me think of Danganronpa quite a bit. It's very fun. Creek could have held it by the scabbard. Creek couldn't have held it by the scabbard. No, he couldn't have held it by this. I'm gonna disagree. I'm actually not sure why I have to disagree, but I feel like this is the wrong answer. So we're going for it. That's not possible, Your Honor. Why? Please tell me. Makoto has already testified that Sosuke left the sword scabbard with him when he thrust him back into the... Oh yeah, that's true. Oh yeah! He thrust him back with the scabbard. Oh. The sheath was thrust into his arms, pushing him back. I thought he was poked back, but it's true. It was thrust into his arms. Rear. So he had to hold the handle. He couldn't have held the blade. That would have been terrible. I see. And since a cursed sword can't be resheathed until it's tasted blood. Yes, Your Honor. Very well said. We would have found the scabbard at the Blue Blood's den if Creek or his men had taken it with them. Instead, I imagine Makoto took it home. You think he took key evidence from his own assault and kept it from the police? Of course I did. As if I would trust officers of the law to properly handle a family heirloom as precious as Yoru's sheath. Impressive insight, Adonai. But what does this actually mean? Is there some mistake with how the evidence was handled? There's no mistakes here. This was all done with intention. The intention to frame my client by putting his fingerprints onto that sword after the real culprit had already handled it. I'm really loving the visuals here, crowd. What a load of bullshit. Oh, and the crowd goes wild. Though it does make a certain kind of sense, because it's the truth. I did wipe the katana's handle down after removing it from Trey's throat. Sosuke just happened to be foolish enough to pick it up himself afterwards. It's frustrating having to keep all my best cards up my sleeve this time around. But the look on Emma's face when I do gets to toss them out. When I do get to toss them out is... Ooh, rebuttal. The people are more than ready to counter. If it pleases the court. Yo, what is this cool-ass song? Zero summary. That's fun. Oh. The defense has made an admirable effort to barrel ahead with this theory. Yes, admirable indeed. Admirable but predictable. With a foundation this week, charging ahead and hoping the court won't notice is the only option. Let us speak of the facts. This Creek character led a targeted ambush on the heir to the House Ikaria, knowing he'd be guarded by a full security team. The Blue Bloods successfully sabotaged and intercepted Makoto's elevator at the precise floor they wanted, meaning they knew exactly where he'd be and when brought with them drugs capable of disabling a veteran with military-grade mods. Planning and attention to detail may be foreign concepts to the defense, but they should at least be able to recognize them. So, is the defense seriously suggesting that after all that preparation, Creek's pod wouldn't bother to wear gloves? I'm glad you asked so nicely. Oh, it's already at max. Needle guns, current Crane's Tower. Creek's fingerprints are on it. His fingerprints are on the damn thing. Yeah, okay. It's definitely a new one, because his fingerprints are on it, which means he didn't have gloves. That's right. Eat butt. We don't need to speculate about whether they wore gloves or not. Not when we have Creek's fingerprints on a weapon recovered from the crime scene. That is a pretty good point, actually. Guess these guys were sloppier than we thought. Those blackguards were barefaced when they attacked us. Idiots. As if they wouldn't be repercussions for their actions. The least they could have done was disguise themselves. Strike that from the record, Your Honor. Along with any future comments that suggest the Ikaria would want revenge against these victims. I was only speaking a plain truth. Creek was their leader, correct? Even if Creek wasn't wearing gloves, it's hard to imagine that none of them got their prints onto Yoru. Unless the sword was, indeed, wiped down at some point afterward. Like around the time the true culprit was looking for Sosuke to take the fall. It's a spicy theory. It's just that, Your Honor, a theory. A far-fetched, unstable theory that stacks presuppositions, I don't know how to say this word, I'm sorry everyone, upon each other. Like a flapjack chef substituting quantity for quality. I'll rephrase. What? Flapjack shit, like extra pancakes that are less good. This inconsistency is easily answered without jumping through the defense's absurdly arranged hoops. That's a little better. We already know that the Blue Bloods had successfully done stuff. Yeah, okay. I don't know why I just summarized that. Successfully taken down the Korea's head of security. And we already know that they went out of their way to take the defendant captive despite him not being their original target. Yeah, okay. Furthermore, as the defense has belabored, we know that they decided to make a useless piece of steel with them from the scene of their crime. Useless? If we ask why, the answer is obvious, because orcas are superstitious and immature. They wanted a trophy, and what is there to do with a trophy? other than polish it. The cloth from Creek's desk. I knew she flagged it in the arcs for some reason, but she'd thought this many steps ahead. The defense is correct. The sword was wiped down before Sosuke took it up as his murder weapon, by the very same victims he'd go on to claim with it. That is a completely logical explanation. Damn it. How do we respond to that, Adonai? We have to find another angle. We don't. I can't. It makes perfect sense. So does that mean she described what actually happened? Not at all. I wiped off the sword myself because of my prints were on it. Same as I wipe my prints off every other. Right. If I can't find fault with Emma's conclusion, I need to find fault with the logic that led her there. I see. And how do you do that? By adjusting my aim. That's right. Gotta change directions. As the people say, Your Honor, no one's fingerprints, but my clients are on the murder weapon. That only makes sense if he's guilty or being framed. And there's no evidence to suggest that he's being framed because his captors had valid reasons for wiping off the sword. That's true. They did have a good reason to wipe off the sword. That's not the murder weapon I'm referring to. What? Broken bat. Oh! Only prints are Sosuke's left hand. His left hand is broken. He has a broken left hand. How would he shoot with his cool-ass broken left hand? Oh, it's It's not Yoru, it's Magus. This gun is the murder weapon I'm referring to. Hell yeah. Let me just move my mouse out of the way. There we go. What? The police are confident that this Mag-Us is the gun that was used to kill Tanks and Creek. And your client was arrested with it on his person. And it has your client's prints on it. But it was owned by Tanks. The record shows that Sosuke's are the only fingerprints on that doohickey. So that means this Tanks guy had never laid a finger on his own gun. That's entirely possible that Tanks simply liked to polish his gun too. Phrasing. So he was polishing it right up until the moment his captor grabbed it and used it against him. More phrasing. I was thinking the same. Was it before or after his internal bleeding that my client took the gun off Tanks without him even laying a finger on it first? Before or after being tortured that he got the gun with no struggle? They could have wrestled over the gun while it was out of reach. Tanks had no injuries besides the hole in his chest. How did he get into a struggle and not get so much as a scratch? The likelihood of that scenario would seem to come down to the order in which each individual died, no? Yes, Your Honor. Then perhaps we ought to hear some more detailed testimony about that. Of course, the defense has no more questions for this witness, Your Honor. We don't object. Hold on. What are you saying? Okie dokie, closing the connection. I said wait, is Sosuke... Makoto seemed to be in good spirits, wouldn't you say? Yeah, he was his usual irreproachable self. So how can you find something about that to be depressed over? I'm ashamed that he testified at all. His appearance here runs the risk of sullying the house's visage with my mistakes. Well, he couldn't exactly slip the subpoena by claiming he had homework to do. You of all people should understand that the house doesn't have to appear in court if it truly doesn't want to. A fine levied on your accounts is always preferred to a smudge staining your reputation. But he did testify. Yes, and he no doubt went directly against one or more family elders to do so. He should not be incurring debts for my sake. So he put himself at a disadvantage for you. Do you think Makoto would want you to apologize? Or do you think he'd want you to thank him? He's young. He doesn't know what he wants yet. I disagree, Sosuke. Oh, we're back, Sato. Yumi Sato, medical examiner. Yumi. Sarah. Dr. Sato. We're grateful to... I'm going to check her profile. That's sweet. Oh, wait, Rockford's here and Addie, too. I should probably look at those. Occupation medical examiner, brushed metal. Still the same. Frame interpolation, split ends, surveys. Splurges on live show tickets, favorite color. Loxian 9 green G. Some future color, I guess. Maybe it's a real color. Coat, very easy to sanitize. Yes. Love your style, girl. Her weight, still unknown. Rockford. Like art museums, amethysts, turn-based RPGs. Ballroom board. Dislikes ballrooms, boardrooms, cliques. I agree with that. Favorite quote, flower in the mirror, moon on the water. Favorite subject, psychology. Exercises by, subject seemed not to hear the question. Good for her. And it's Addie. I like Addie. Dislikes happy couples who ask you to take their photo. What? Likes mountain air, gymnasts, luxury. Pineapple on pizza. Until proven guilty. Shopping carts always returned. Did you even shop? Favorite quote. He who is without sin, play first or draw first. All right. That was fun. That was fun, everyone. That was fun, everybody. Dr. Sato, we're very grateful for your work sorting through the large number of reports related to this case. Whew, yeah, 5 bodies, all high priority. Had my head underwater for a good while there. We prefer not to tax you with repeating every grisly detail. But if you could, would you please walk the court through the time of death for each victim and manner in which they were determined? Right. From the top. Anchor Tan, aka Tanks, had a mishmash of street legal and chop shop mods along his forearms. None of them were particularly up to date, but they were all working, and they did monitor his heart rate. Tank's heart stopped at 944. The cause of death was... yeah. The slug had a hollow design, intended to shatter the inside the target. There's no mistaking that he was killed by his own gun, the Mag-Us, from a distance of 1 to 2 meters. Next up is Sugamin Trey Trench. He also had relatively low-end mods installed, and they show his heart stopping at 9:45 p.m. He died from exsanguination, blood loss, resulting from a laceration across his neck by a sharp metal blade. That wasn't the only injury his body sustained through, was it? No, it was not. Posthumously, his skull was... saw no evil. Heavens, Miller Smiles received a punctured wound straight through his jugular vein. And then the blade was withdrawn, exacerbating blood loss, and he was likely unconscious within seconds of falling to the ground. Miller had mods, but had evidently gone to great lengths to remove all monitoring tech from them. He was not found with any electronics on his person. Using purely medical means, I narrowed his time of death down to a window of 10 minutes between 9:40 and 9:50 p.m. Even though I killed him third, and he was the second to die. That brings us to Creek. Yes, like Tanks, Lakers Creek Kristoff was shot once with a hollowed slug from a distance of 1 to 2 meters. However, the slug penetrated just beneath their solar plexus and failed to completely shatter when impacted at low-end spinal brace. Impacted a low-end spinal brace mod. As a result, Creek didn't die immediately. It is my medical opinion that Creek would have slowly bled out over the course of about 5 minutes. Their mod did not have any biomonitoring capabilities, so, like with Miller, I've done what I can to narrow down the time of death to a 10-minute window between 9:40 and 9:50. So he's barely modded, and he stayed conscious that whole time anyway? But we do have one other context clue to work with. The data pad was found very close to Creek's body, and technicians confirmed that it requires Creek's fingerprints for most functions. That means it is unlikely that anyone else would have been able to manipulate it. And we found that the last action taken on it was an attempted dark card transaction that failed at 9:44 p.m. What could cause a dark card transaction to fail? Either they hit cancel, or the card itself was jostled, interrupted the scan. As if the datapad was suddenly dropped. Speculation? How much qualification does one need for you to understand that the card readers can be finicky, Your Honor? True enough. Chip, swipe, pin, tap. Just let me buy the damn balloon animal, you clown. So, taking that digital evidence into account, Creek must have been shot almost at the exact same time as Tanks. Thank you. There is one more body examined for this case, yes? Officer Tariq Chopin. I didn't need to determine his time of death. As the patrol officer, he had a standard suite of police-issued biomonitors. So we know the officer's Chopin's heart stopped at 10:14:04 p.m., triggering an automatic 10999 alert, officer down, lighting up that crime scene like a firecracker and ensuring every cop in the city would come running, royally pissed, and safety's off. Chopin was impaled through his back by a long, thin blade. It severed his aorta. As a result, he died instantly. To summarize, then, we can conclude that Tank's gun was taken from him before 9:44 p.m. He and Creek were then shot with it. Their attacker, out of ammunition, took up a sword and stabbed Miller in the throat, before slicing into Trey's neck. This individual then proceeded to posthumously crush the Trey's skull by striking it so hard that they shattered a baseball bat, as Creek bled to death on the other side of the room. Finally, when Officer Chopin entered the scene, they stabbed him in the back, before finally being apprehended by Officer Rogers. That's all correct, as far as we understand it. So now Rockford's put together a timeline. It's probably helpful for the jury, putting it all in chronological order. But have we actually learned anything new about the culprit's actions? We have, Emma. Oh, we have. Emma brought her on the stand to establish the culprit's starting position, right? It would be starting position. Yeah, because he started by shooting our boy. So he was in front. Yeah, he was a meter or two in front of Tanks and a meter and two in front of Creek. So that places him at the scene. We can, like, put his position down, basically, from where their bodies are left. Sato's established where the room the killings had to have started. Correct. Correct, because Creek and Tanks died first, and they were both shot from within 1 to 2 meters. We know that the culprit must have started taking action right by the desk, and not by the door to the holding room. Indeed. Okay. So the likelihood that my client broke out from there is not very high at all. Check. Oh, we made a check. Yes, or no, they made a check. An abundance of DNA evidence establishes that the defendant was indeed held in the other room, but clearly he didn't remain there. His captors must have taken him out to question him in the main room, and dragged him in front of the desk where Tank's gun would be within reach. You're the one who's reaching. You have evidence to the contrary, a better explanation for how he got out of where he was being held. Can't exactly propose that the real killer set him free as a scapegoat. The forensics are clear. My client was gagged and bound in that room. But clearly they had to cut him loose to question him. A mistake that ended up costing them their lives. Do you think that's true, Sosuke? I'm not positive, of course. But my body is telling me that I was held in that room from the time I woke up until I got myself free. Emma's theory about blue bloods being dumb enough to let Sosuke near a gun isn't perfect, but it's still a theory. I don't have jack shit to counter with because not even Sosuke knows how I let him out. If the defense has no objections, then they'll just have to take this L and meekly move on to their cross-examination. Adonai, that made you sound very feeble. You've developed a habit of only using we when I'm winning. Fix it. That made us sound very feeble. Why do I have to get roped in? Emma's already established a timeline and an order of events. I could pick at the details, but she's close enough to the truth already. I know the truth firsthand about every death except Chopin. In this case, Emma and I are on even footing. So what's my advantage? What is the advantage? Oh yeah, it's the knife. What do I know that everyone else is mistaken about? It's the cause of death. Because you killed with a little mini knife, right? A mini knife. Causes deaths. Wait, what? Eh? Cause of death? Sato understood all of that, even better than me. She studied each corpse to figure out exactly what they all died of, but she can't know about the real... Oh, the timing. I don't know why I thought causes of death. I was thinking of that little knife thingy. Timing? Timing of each killing? Creek took off... Sato went to great pains. What? I guess it's the... You know what? I don't know why I thought causes of death or timing, but here I go. Right, the murder weapons. Everyone thinks Miller was stabbed at... I don't know why. It's like my brain fell apart and I read murder weapons and causes of death, and I was like, the cause of death was that tiny knife and not the murder weapons. Good for me. I'm the only one who knows my knife was there. Yes. Yes, indeed. There's got to be a way I can use that information to my advantage here, without revealing that I have it, or how I got it. I'm walking on razor's edge here. At least it's thematically appropriate. The defense is ready to begin our cross-examination, Your Honor. Oh, it's blackjack time. Okay. Dr. Sato, we were asked to examine all 5 bodies. Did you visit the crime scene? I did not. Have not. 7. Photos and other ARCS data were provided to me to aid in my examination. Surely the defense isn't objecting to a little virtual work. Of course not. After all, had anything been added or removed from the crime scenes, the ARCS would show it. There's no fooling it once it's been set up. Okay. So blade wounds. Victims Trey and Miller. Wait. No. Victims Trey and Miller were both attacked with blade. Except how fast did they die? Trey had his throat slashed and blood found on his hand, suggests that he had time to reach up to his neck in response. But he would have quickly stumbled back and collapsed onto the floor, dead. Miller wouldn't have lost much blood at the moment. His neck was punctured. For that kind of wound, the weapon acts as a stopper. But once that stopper was removed, he would have lost consciousness in mere seconds. And while the blade was still in his neck, if it wasn't there for more than a second, he too would have reflexively reached up, presumably to try to grab the blade. Is there proof he grabbed the blade? Can I look at this? Single stab wound, carotid artery leading to massive blood loss. Loss of consciousness would have occurred momentarily after the blade's withdrawal. Subject was stabbed in the neck with the blade, approximately 2 to 3 centimeters thick. Yeah, I guess I would press. I mean, what else am I supposed to do? I'm gonna lose 5 if I mess up. That sucks. All right. Is there any evidence that he tried to grab the razor? Sharp katana lodged in his neck. He had his own blood on his right hand, but there was no cuts on it. Because he grabbed the knife's handle, not a sword's edge. So it stands to reason that the blade was withdrawn very quickly. By the time his hands reached up to his neck, it must have been gone. One of many small inconsistencies with this katana theory I can shine a light on, yes. But will it be enough? Yeah, katana stab now. Okay, so katana stab. Stabbing Miller's neck so precisely and so fast that would have been quite the feat of swordsmanship. Stating a conclusion, Your Honor. Comments withdrawn, quick as a blade. Have you ever seen a stab wound like that? The one that killed Miller inflicted by a long blade? and wielded in one hand by a man experienced heavy blood loss? No, I can't say that I have. Now, whether that maneuver is impressive or improbable, well, I'm a doctor, not a fencer. And Sosuke doesn't own a rapier. I'm pressing it. This katana fit the puncture wound. Did you find that the stab wound on Miller's neck fit the sword that the police recovered? Approximately. That does sound conclusive. The entry wound is slightly smaller than I would expect for such a precise stab. The sword hand must have barely trembled, but it's with tolerable ranges. Furthermore, DNA at the tip of the sword is a match for Miller. Damn it, just because I happened to drag it across where his blood had dripped. And of course, there isn't any other implement at the scene that fits the wound better. No, of course there isn't. Oh shit, I have to keep going. I think we're done talking about Miller being stabbed. I feel like if we do that, we're just reaching. Okay. Is it not the gun? Gunshot has nothing to do with this. Okay, so Chopin was stabbed. Could you speak a bit more about the manner of Chopin's death? Well, to reiterate, his body was found with the katana stuck through his back and had punctured his heart, killing him. There was a massive blood loss at the scene. And at least in part because the wound in question was agitated. I suppose I'd say. Agitated. What does agitated mean? Yeah, because it sounds like Sosuke was kind of off. What do you mean by agitated? Honestly, as though after impalement the blade was moved around inside the wound, as if it had become stuck and someone was struggling to remove it. Hey, that's Blackjack. London mentioned that Sato found this wound odd, but to hear her specifically say the blade had become stuck, that's interesting. Thank you, Dr. Sato. I think I could speak for all of us, for us all, when I say I found that very enlightening. That's Blackjack, baby. Dr. Sato, you just testified that Officer Chopin was impaled from behind. Did this occur on the spot where his body was found? Yes, it did. The body showed no signs of being moved. I'm curious, then. What was there for the sword to get stuck on? Huh? Well, if Chopin was in the center of the room, standing upright, I mean, it wouldn't have gotten caught on the air, right? Bone, perhaps? Surely you examined the wound inside out. Did you see marks on his ribcage where the blade had caught? No, I didn't. Then it stands to reason that the blade didn't get caught on anything inside, Mr. Chopin. It got caught on the floor. Pardon? You need to take greater advantage of the arcs, Counselor Morgan. Learn to flip things on their head. I don't find that probable. Entire rooms, if need be. If you had, you'd see that there's a clear indentation on the floor that lines up perfectly with Mr. Chopin's wound. How did you think the tip of the sword got chipped? You're saying the sword got stuck in the floor? That's what the facts are saying. Do you disagree? I mean... then got chipped. Sword couldn't have got stuck on the floor, but it was found on the floor. I can't deny. I don't have proof. I don't necessarily disagree, no. Okay. If Chopin was impaled, then fell face first, that makes perfect sense for the sword to get caught in the floor as he collapsed on top of it. So we can conclude that after being impaled, Chopin fell over with the sword still in his torso, driving the sword into the ground. Then his attacker aggravated the wound by trying to retrieve the sword from his corpse. Does that sound right? What? Are you asking me? Sort of, asking the room, I guess. Well, I believe I can answer. What you're describing makes sense, Dr. Sato, but only up until we consider again the fingerprints on the sword handle. My client really did impale Tariq Chopin and get his sword stuck doing so. Why would he try to retrieve it with only one hand? Because he had to retrieve it with one hand. You yourself already elucidated that the defendant's left hand was broken when he destroyed the elevator panel in the crane tower. His left hand was too damaged for him to even grip the sword. That doesn't square with this piece of evidence. The gun. because his fingerprints are on the gun. Is the gun there? Is the gun there? Yeah, that's right. Yeah, left hand. That's what I thought. That's what I saw. Magus time. Love that piece of evidence. The Magus? How could my client's left hand be too damaged to grip his sword, and yet also capable of gripping the Magus? I'm making cash, I think. That oddity is hardly impossible to explain. We've already determined that the Magus was fired twice before the sword was used at all. Firing such a weapon with a broken hand surely rendered his left useless. Ugh, that's... It is difficult to wield a sword with a damaged hand, isn't it, Sosuke? Historically, even the loss of a pinky in your non-dominant hand was considered enough to render you relatively defenseless. Is that why Yakuza would offer to cut off fingers as recompense for offenses? That's right, Sarah. In fact, cut the chatter and save the history lesson. He had to pull the sword loose with one hand because his left was useless? Yes. Looking at all the forensics pulled from the katana, that's... Your Honor, the people claim that my client had to use one hand to retrieve his sword because his other hand was disabled. But does the evidence actually suggest that? What do you mean? Forensics performed on the katana found my client's right hand fingerprints on the handle. But what grip are the prints a match for? Let me just give it a quick think here before I meticulously analyze the position of each finger. A normal grip. The grip is normal. Do you mean to say that the thumb is facing towards the blade, Your Honor? Well, yeah. But isn't it easier to just say he held it like normal? If my clients only held the sword with his right hand normally, Your Honor, that would mean he held the handle like that even as he tried to jostle the blade free from the floor it was impaled on, which is far from impossible. But if, Your Honor, the court has questions about exactly how the defendant was positioned when he was found standing above Officer Chopin's corpse, I believe the people's next witness would be able to answer all of them. That could only mean it's finally time to face off with the arresting officer, Chopin's partner. Very well. Then let us summon to the stand, null name not found. What? What? Is that a family or given name? What? Yeah, I got one old big error right here, and it's the classic. Witness not found. Literally. He ain't here. What? Yo, this guy sucks. He's had hours to get here. What the hell could he possibly... Her star witness is a no-show. Is this good news or bad news? Like hitting the jackpot on the world's sketchiest slot machine. Feels good, but you get the feeling that the staff is gonna make you pay for it. That idiotic. Pay for it when? Fine, I'll finish it myself. Right about now. Perhaps it is for the best, Your Honor. We can save the court the trouble by wrapping up things here and now. The facts are simple, and the defense has failed to refute them. Thus, the people call for a summary judgment. Already? The defendant is the only one with his prints on the gun. He's the only one with his prints on the katana. His own employer testified to this court that he was attacked and captured by 4 of the 5 victims. He was found and arrested standing over the body of a dead cop, before 2 more officers arrived and secured the scene. That must be Reyes in London she's referring to. As the only living persons left at the scene of the crime, there was no one else who could have committed these murders. She's on a tear, and I'd be lying if I said it wasn't entertaining, but it's only because she's on tilt. She was thrown off by her witness flaking, and that caused her to overstep. She just fired off a lot of claims in quick succession. Which is the weakest one? Okay. Where do I counterattack? Okay. Wait. What did she say before I get into choosing stuff? Okay. He's the only one with the prints on the gun. He's the only one prints where testified he was found arrested. The only living person left of the scene. There was no one else. Okay, it's probably that part. It's probably that part. Oh, okay, well, I just moved myself away for that. No. 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 The only thing that saves us is that we refute that he's not the only suspect. She just claimed that Sosuke's the only one who could have committed these murders. Oh. She can't possibly prove that. She can't prove that there wasn't anyone else there that night because I actually was. And unlike her, I can prove the possibility of another party being present without having to reveal their identity. Alright, we're getting there. The people are mistaken, Your Honor. My client wasn't the only other person there at night. What would it be? And there's evidence to show it. Oh, the dark card, of course. Yeah, baby, it's the dark card. This dark card. What is that? The dark card found lodged into Creek's datapad? That's right, the perfect payment option when neither you or the business you frequent like attaching names to faces. We've already discussed that within moments of Creek's death. A transaction was being attempted on his datapad. Alright. The transaction made using this dark card. But whatever for? Perhaps some of the handful of illicit substances that were found at the scene of the crime? Oh, crap. Yeah, almost forgot. These guys were drug dealers. And drug dealers get customers, Your Honor. Customers that can be very temperamental when things go south. Are you trying to suggest these killings were the result of a drug deal gone wrong? I mean, they sort of were. A drug deal made in person at Blue Blood Stronghold. Dark cards require a passkey and a fingerprint. The cards would be useless if the owner wasn't physically present for the transaction. A transaction that might be abruptly cancelled if tensions boiled over. A potential buyer would likely have been across the desk from Creek. The same spot in the room that we've established that the killer must have started their rampage. Cute idea, counselor, but there's no meat to it. We know that Creek was using that datapad before he died. Yeah? And we know that Dark Card was processing a transaction at the time. But for some reason, you've made the assumption that he was selling, when the simplest explanation is that he was buying, using the Dark Card that he owned. The Dark Card belonged to Creek. How will you respond? It failed. I don't need to respond. With evidence. I just need to point out the flawed evidence she's constructed her argument upon. Wiped of all prints. Yeah, it's wiped of all prints before he could... after he died. Well, yeah. It was like... I mean, right? Creek's Chopin's fingerprints. No, it's not that datapad. Like, at the end of the day, it's the dark card. It's just the dark card the entire time. Emma made just a giant mistake. This is just characterization, Your Honor. The people are claiming that the dark card and evidence record belong to the victim, Creek, despite the fact that it has no fingerprints on it either. What? If that dark card had belonged to Creek, he would have had to insert it into his datapad with his teeth. Yuck. So who did that? Who did the dark card belong to? Perhaps a customer who didn't like his prices. A disgruntled customer would have wiped their prints off the card to hide the fact that they were ever there. That's absurd. If a customer brought that dark card with them to the crime scene, why the hell wouldn't they take it with them when they left? It was stuck in the datapad. They could have pulled a little harder. They could have taken the datapad with them. Who would leave behind something that valuable? The card is worthless to everyone but its owner. To whom could it be priceless? Why would they choose to leave it behind? The answer to that is simple, if I'm honest. We're discussing the possibility of a deal gone south. What could cause that in the first place? Aggressive negotiation tactics? Or a customer who couldn't pay? What are you? This customer could afford a dark card, and yet they couldn't pay. Hold on. You're trying to say all these deaths, all this carnage, you think it's all because their card got declined? Hard to live down that kind of faux pas. Murdering 4 or 5 people in order to skip paying your bill is pretty aggressive, but if you need your fix... Was there any indication that contraband was taken from the scene of the crime? Your Honor, that is difficult to say. Without knowing their inventory before the crime occurred, we cannot rule out the possibility. That was a little lackluster of a pushback. Is she really that thrown off by this witness playing hooky? Well, I hate to do this because I love spending time with you all and having a physical body, but being insoled, but it does seem like I have to declare a recess while we wait. Perfectly reasonable, Your Honor. That's the most romantic thing I've ever heard. What? Court is now in recess. Oh, we're in recess. Damn. You know what? I think I'm gonna hold it here, because, you know what? I didn't expect to have a recess in this thing, and I think it'll be kind of cool to split it up into 2. We haven't heard, what's his name, Roger's testimony yet, so that's something. So I'll leave it here, guys, and, whoops, I just kind of knocked my little filter off my microphone. I'm gonna leave it here. And we'll continue in the next part of this trial. It's getting spicy, considering that we're responsible for about 4/5 of this. Anyways, I'll see you guys in the next part of this trial. We'll cover the recess before we move into the next part. Well, we'll cover recess in the next part before we move into the trial. So, that should be interesting. All right. I'll see you guys next time in Of the Devil. Bye-bye.